Well, hello and welcome to everybody joining us here today. I am your host, Rebecca Radiz, and today we are talking about how to save for college and make your dreams come true. And I am joined here with the team at Inversant. This is brought to you today by the wonderful people at Exelum. But before we jump in, before we get started, as you're all coming in, we'd love to hear where you're located. We know that, as you can see, all of us are still remote these days. We're spread out all over the place, and we'd love to know where you are. So if you are joining us today from home, let us know. If you're in a specific city, we'd love to know that as well. You can just drop that right into the comments. We are streaming live today on both Facebook and Periscope over on Twitter. And again, as we get started here, I'd love to introduce the team to you here at Inversant. And Rochelle, I think I'll let you kick us off today and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some of your background.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Rebecca. So as Rebecca mentioned, my name is Rochelle Araniz, and I am the Director of Programs here at Inversant. I've actually been with Inversant for, I would say, a little bit over 7 years, and it's been most of my career, actually, in higher education access has been with Inversant. Before Inversant, I was actually work in a few different locations doing public health education. So my background has always been kind of like educating the public. It's just been a little bit of different topics. Before this, I was a facilitator for Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts, where I work with families as well, which is kind of like similar demographics when it comes to the people that we serve here at Inversant. And before that, I was also at the Brighams doing a lot of health education for patients and workers. So I'm really excited to be here today because higher education access has always been part of my passion. I actually was someone who came from a family who valued education over everything, and has had the passion of education because we always understood that education was the fastest way to reduce the opportunity gap, at least in my family. That's one of the ways that we always saw it. So yeah, when I started working at Inversant, it was always great to see that same passion translated to the families that we work with, who look and sound and have the same passions and the same views that my own family has. So that's a little bit about myself.
Fabulous. Well, thrilled to have you here today. Thrilled to have all of you here today as we talk about, as you mentioned, something that's not only your passion, but I know everybody's passion that is here, including you, Bianca. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background too?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Bianca Jimenez. I'm the program coordinator for the Boston programming. I've been at Inversant for about a year, but it feels like 5 years with COVID. But I've worked in nonprofit for a really long time. Prior to coming to College Access and college savings accounts, I worked in the housing world, particularly around financial coaching. It was really important for me to work at Inversant because unfortunately in our society, it's full of systems that are working against people in a variety of industries in so many different fronts. So it's really important to me to be a member of this community and really work in tandem with people of this community with the knowledge that I've acquired on my path in my career. So I really believe that we help people navigate around all the different crap that's thrown at them from day to day. And, why be a critic when you can be a cheerleader or a friend or a resource? It's really important for me to be that to so many different people in our community.
Yeah, I love that. A cheerleader, and you most definitely are. And part of what we're going to talk about today are our new programs that will be releasing. And you're going to see two of these faces, Bianca, yours, and Yerlyn, yours, on these new programs that we're going to be sharing so much about today. So, Yerlyn, without further ado, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, so like Rebecca mentioned, my name is Yerlyn, and Yerlyn Isazis, and I am the program manager for Chelsea. And I have been working with families for the past 7 years, and working with families and community is my passion. I belong to a community, and I understand very well what challenges parents and families go through with their children. I'm a parent myself, and I put my shoes in the families every single day. And this is my best way to understand any issues that families were going through, particularly when it comes to college and making decisions for college. And also part of my background, not only I have worked with families, I have also worked in school districts, and also it's a good combination, I believe, where I can understand the side of how school districts works and how I can best serve these communities and these families to their best, for their best. Yeah. So all this background and all this knowledge has helped me to provide a better service to families ever since I started with Inversant. And I have been with Inversant for since January in this year.
Look at that. So almost a full year, and a very interesting year at that, right?
Yes, very interesting.
To say the least. Well, thank you all for being here today. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about Inversant, our programs, who we help, which I think all of you mentioned, the families that we get to serve on a daily basis. And then more than that, what we will talk a little bit more about are these new programs that are going to really help you learn how to save for college, what financial aid is available to you, where you can get started, because I think there's a lot of fear around that too, right? Of what options are available to me? How do I find them? Where do I get started? So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But first of all, let's share more about Inversant. Rochelle, for those people that aren't completely familiar with Inversant, I know we have very, very deep roots in the Massachusetts, but most specifically the Boston area. So share with us a little bit more about the background and the roots of Inversant.
Yes, of course, Rebecca. So I want to talk a little bit in the sense, and Bianca mentioned this earlier, how we have to be cheerleaders of each other to try to make sure that our communities thrive. And that's one of the key aspects of why I love our program, because we are, we're a lot of things, but mostly cheerleaders within the community. And that's how the program started. Just to give you a little bit of background, we started off in 2009. Actually, we were founded by Bob Hildreth, who's an economist. And if you know Bob have had conversations with him for more than 5 minutes, you realize that he has a huge passion for higher education and financial empowerment, and especially financial empowerment with the lens of higher education access. So he started our program with two partnerships in 2009. The first one with a small but powerful and mighty after-school program called La Vida Scholars. And the second one was actually with Chelsea Public Schools. And the fun thing for me to see about this partnership with Chelsea is that this was kind of like the first time that the city of Chelsea had a college savings program implemented within their city. So when we talk about Inversant and how we provide resources to families and knowledge to families, and the fact that we want to be cheerleaders in this process of making sure that if, a low to moderate income family wants to go to college, they do have those resources. And the way we do that is by, first of all, in terms of the resources, making sure that they open a savings account and save, because we know that college is expensive. We know that financial aid is not going to cover absolutely everything that you need. And we've seen in the past 10 years that we've been an organization, we've seen how financial aid has kind of diminished in terms of the help that families receive. So that's one of the good things about our program, kind of like keeping a lens and also advocate for these issues. So we started in 2009 with those partnerships. Ever since then, we've actually opened up our services to families in Revere, Salem, Lynn, Boston. We've also had programs in Western Massachusetts with a couple of different partnerships with the state and local government in there. And with that, we've actually served about, I would say, a little more than 2,000 families in terms of opening savings account and, just like learning a little bit about the process of how to help their children apply for, but also finance college. So I would say a lot of our work has been in providing that specific focus of, yes, getting in is important. Yes, good grades are important, but we need to be able to navigate the system. And it is a very complicated system that it's not easy for, families who is their first time applying for college, or families who it is their first time coming to a different country and they have absolutely no idea what any of the system that we have in this country entails. And even for families who have gone to college themselves, they see completely different worlds. I was actually hearing stories of students talk about the fact that when their parents went to college, it was only a few $1,000s that their parents had to pay a year. Whereas now, a private university here in Massachusetts would put you at probably $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year to be able to go. So it has changed for those who are familiar, and especially for those who have absolutely no knowledge of it and how to start. But what we've seen throughout those 10 years of being an organization is that what hasn't changed is that motivation and that passion that families have on education, specifically wanting to pass down to their kids and letting them know, hey, this is the way to do it, but we just don't know how to get there. So that's kind of like where our program comes in.
Yeah, it definitely that empowerment. And I know you talk about what has changed and what hasn't changed. What have you heard throughout this year as we've dealt with the pandemic and COVID? Have the struggles intensified? Have the questions changed at all? Or are you still seeing pretty consistent questions coming at you in terms of the process and where to get started and what options are available?
I think I would say the questions are still the same, but with a stronger edge, so families, because they understand that this process is new, or that the process continues to change, but this is now on the lens of there is a world pandemic and nobody really knows. If you didn't know what the process was before, even colleges are having a hard time dealing with what this pandemic actually signifies. So even if the education systems are having a hard time, so it's even harder for families. So I've seen families worried about the fact that how is this going to impact me? Now I'm worried about just my family being healthy. I'm worried about making sure that we still have food on the table and that I have my job. So how is this going to impact even further the education? Because we had a plan. We have families that have been in the program for a long time who kind of say, I have a plan, I have a savings account, I'm saving. But now it's like, okay, well, now everything is changing even faster because of the pandemic. So it's that edge of the fact that many of us, whether it's our nonprofits or the colleges or our government or our communities, we don't know. We're kind of like living day by day, So it's like that's why the whole cheerleading aspect is even more of an importance for our program, because even if we're not 100% sure how these systems are going to change tomorrow due to the pandemic, we're still pushing families and empower them and letting them know, advocate for yourselves. If you have questions, this is where you should go to ask those questions. Don't just stay, we can all freak out and have our moments of freaking out. But it's always good to, just take a step back and understand why we're here, and letting families know that we're still here, that at least that's not changing.
Yeah. Well, and Bianca, I know you are in communication on a daily basis with Inversant families. And for you, it's really the front lines of seeing how things have affected families throughout this entire year. And as we have come through the year, what we have recognized is that with the changes that are transpiring as we all moved remotely, and so much changed with college campuses, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country, we recognized that we were going to have to make some changes as well within programming. So I'd love for you to kind of kick us off there and talk about what is that shift? What are we so excited about today to share in terms of what's changing at Inversant?
Where should I begin? Well, I think that everybody has just been kind of adapting to all of, nobody has ever had to wear through a pandemic before. I mean, nobody who's of working age right now like this. And particularly in the sense for nonprofit, and the way the world is moving right now, it can be really scary to think that some of our programs and some of these services that we offer so many individuals and so many different families might not be funded or might be taken away. I think that's what gives me a little more fight to want to push for these programs more, and what makes me so excited about these changes. For example, we are now going digital. We are opening up our program on a digital level, and it's definitely way more inclusive. It's self-paced, and you get to learn about the college process and what it takes to really make a legit plan for yourself, for your family, for your household, or for anybody in your community, honestly. It has been an interesting transition for me as an employee who initially I facilitated workshops live and direct, and now I'm filming and we are sending those out so families can, or families or individuals will be able to learn more about how to apply to college. But what you don't realize when you're speaking live compared to when you're on video is your facial expressions. So I really learned to kind of switch it up. And we hope that the information that you're gonna be receiving soon for our new programming, that you'll love it. We're gonna really kick off this year with financial aid, because it is October and it is time to start getting that financial aid in, just to make sure that you are getting all the money that you could possibly receive from the federal government. But I think Rochelle would be able to explain a little bit more of the intricacies of our program.
Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to point out our fearless leader, Yiming, the CEO of Inversant, is here, and she was saying absolutely to what both of you were saying earlier. Education is a constant need and hope that many families rely on to stay afloat and advance ourselves. The pandemic definitely made people feel overwhelmed and isolated, and I think that's such a great point, because we are all in this together. We're all feeling this overwhelm of trying to keep it all together, trying to navigate through this new world that we're living in, and trying to figure out, what does the future look like for us? And we definitely saw that the future is digital, that yes, while we are all craving to get back to face-to-face experiences until it's 100% safe to do so. We did have to find a new and improved way in the sense of how do we face this current crisis in bringing the information people need to them. So, Rochelle, I'll let you talk a little bit about that and what exactly this new programming looks like.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that I wanted to say on my personal anecdotes, because I used to also be in the front lines and speaking a lot with families throughout the years, is that there was also always this push for us to help families understand too, and they understand it. It's more allowing them and empowering them to see that the digital world is so important for the college process because of the fact that everything is faster, easier in terms of getting a response. So this is something that unknowingly Inversant has been pushing for a long time until we finally, the pandemic kind of pushed us to go 100% into that aspect. So I wanted to say that, we've kind of like been preparing for it. It's just, this is how things happened. But in terms of our program, I think, and Bianca mentioned a lot of this, we've done a lot of adapting in the last 10 years. And the reason why we've been adapting, and in addition to because it's a pandemic, is because we try our best to gather as much feedback from the families that we've served, from the parents that we've served, the partners throughout the 10 years. And we've always been a program that is proud to always say we meet families where they're at, or we meet, students, individuals. So, but that has changed throughout the last 10 years in terms of like, where is it that they are at, right? So we started off as, being a program. Okay, so we are going to open a savings account. We have incentives so that it can get you, running. And then you also at the same time are going to come to this awesome, facilitated discussions and workshops facilitated by great facilitators like Bianca and Yerlin. But now we've realized that the true meaning of meeting families where they're at is not necessarily just like asking them to do everything at the same time. We've realized that sometimes people, will like to get their feet wet by learning about the process first, and then thinking about, okay, so how do I start contributing to that finance piece? And, I may want to open an account later on, but right now I just want to learn, whereas there are other people that maybe is a parent who has a child in the 5th grade where they're not necessarily thinking about applying for financial aid right now because they have a couple of years, but they want to start the process of at least saving and opening that account. So we've actually decoupled a lot of the aspects of our program and what it means to be part of an Inversant by giving this kind of like a menu where you pick and choose what is it that you need at that moment when you need it. So this is why Bianca spoke a little bit about this self-paced virtual workshops. And we're going to have these workshops or modules, and they're going to focus on a different aspect of the college process and the finance process. And we're going to have semesters. So right now, as Bianca mentioned, we're going to focus on financial aid because we understand that this is the process. This is when, FAFSA, which is the application that you use to apply for financial aid, opens up and families are starting to apply. One of the reasons too why we focus on this right now is because there's a lot of research that talks about, especially here in Massachusetts, the number of applications for financial aid have actually decreased in the past, and it's been a downward trend for the past couple of years. So we want to make sure, and a lot of it has to do with myths and lack of understanding that people may have, and people may think that they don't qualify for it. So we want to make sure that we are talking about those myths and are helping families understand that everybody should fill out the FAFSA, regardless of where you are in the process or whether you think your family will qualify for it or not. So there's that aspect of it, of the learning, self-paced. Families can complete these modules in their phone, in their laptop, in their iPads. It's going to be very friendly for all of this. It's not necessarily that you have to show up at a certain time, which used to be sometimes one of the struggles that we would have too when it comes to scheduling workshops too, where families would be like, I really want to show up to this, but I have work. I work the third shift, so it's hard for me to even make the evening commitment. So this is going to be very individualized to families are going to be able to submit and complete it. And then there's also, because our program is well known too for in the fact that we love incentives. So every step of the way, there's going to be little bits and pieces and prices for families to be able to get incentivized. And the reason for this too is because it is, time that they're taking, and we want to make sure that we, and that's something that sometimes we don't really think about. The fact that when families are in these programs, they're actually taking time of their own, where they could be making money or working to be able to complete this processes and do these services. So we want to reward people for that time that they're spending. So that's kind of like the learning piece. And then of course we always incentivize families to open up an account, to continue to save, but it's always going to be, this menu, you get to pick and choose this month, what is it that you're going to be able to take on, especially because we know that this is it's a pandemic and things are happening at a very different aspect and focus and lens that we've seen it before. So that's kind of like how our program has changed in the past couple of months in that menu. And this is kind of like the beginning aspect of everybody learning the changes, but then also letting you know that we will have opportunities for everybody to enroll into these new programs soon and shortly after this conversation.
I'd also like to add another point too, is that working with families, like traditionally we've worked with high school families. And I think that has been really great. And it really has made an impact. But while working with these high school families, we've realized that a lot of these parents are also going to college along with their children. Yeah. So being able to really create a more inclusive program that really includes what the faces of families really look like in 2020. In the past, we've always had like this idea of like your nuclear family, and this is how the process goes. But, that's not how life works. So, being able to have this information, sometimes as an older learner, it could be a little difficult to be like, hey, who do I reach out to apply for FAFSA? I mean, as an adult, you're like, I don't want to reach out to somebody to talk about that. But being able, like wealthy people have these services at their disposal. Being able to have a team of people to be able to kind of specialize in that and be able to talk to you about what the process is going to look like and create a plan is super important. And everyone should have access to that. It shouldn't be just for a particular subset of people. So I think that's probably what the most exciting part of the program is for me, is how everybody, no matter what age you are or where you are in life, you have an opportunity to really get a higher education in something that you love and really, have that impact for economic mobility and change your life. And I think that is what I love the most about all these new changes that we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. And we've got some comments. Heidi says, yes, thank you for debunking the myths. The pandemic has made everything even more confusing, which I know you've really talked about too. Looking forward to a step-by-step roadmap for financial aid. And I think that's such a critical point that all of you have brought to light. And Yiming states it as well, that every crisis gives us a window of opportunity. Although we're in quarantine and with all the uncertainty of school reopening, we want to make sure to adapt to the new reality. And I definitely believe that was the opportunity every company, every organization faced through this pandemic was, what is the actual reality? What does it look like for families that do want to go to college. They want to achieve that dream of higher education, and yet the information that's out there is difficult. It's very confusing. You talked about the myths. It's something that if I were to Google, I might get a little bit of information, but to be able to filter through that, having been a parent of two boys that went to college and dealing with FAFSA, I can tell you and attest to how confusing and overwhelming and stressful it is. Even as somebody that felt like I was, kind of immersed with all of you and had a little bit better understanding. So it's scary. And I love to see how all of you come in and you truly do hold the hand, even if it is in the digital world and the online world. You hold the hand of those families to say, you don't have to go at this alone. You don't have to figure this out. We've done all of that hard work for you, and we're presenting it in a way that's very easy to go through at your own pace, and that you can come in, you can go out, and then you're real live human beings. You're not just, a person behind a computer. You're there every step of the way with people. So let's dive just a little bit more into what exactly this financial aid program is going to look like. We do have a website. I'll be sharing that link. I'll drop that into the comments where people can sign up so that as soon as enrollment is open for this first piece, which is the financial aid that you've talked so much about, but share just a little bit more about your heart and how much of that went into this first workshop, this digital workshop that we're going to be bringing. And Bianca, I know you're super passionate, so you can take this one. But anybody that wants to just talk a little bit more about the financial aid and what you as a facilitator brought into this, I think would be wonderful.
Sure. And, just to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying about how difficult like applying for FAFSA can be and how intimidating, like imagine adding the layers of a language barrier, economic barriers, like not being able to give your child like 10% attention because you have 3 jobs. And I think that's what is so unique about Inversant and like where we can really kind of fill a gap, I mean, even Yerlin and I went in this rabbit hole of video recording. It got crazy and weird, but like it was so fun. And also being able to work together because Yerlin has created like the Spanish and trying to directly translate English financial words into Spanish and to make it like to help a lot of different Spanish speaking people with different dialects. It's been really, really challenging, but also there's parts that have been like really hilarious. Like after filming everything, I start cracking up because I can't believe I just did that. I think it's been, but what I do like about it is that I want families to have that self-paced or individuals to have that option for self-paced. I literally hate when I have to do things at a certain time or like a certain like any kind of scheduled thing when I have so much going on, particularly like at work or anything like that. Being able to have that has been like I will do 20 hours of filming in a day if I can help families be able to have that experience. I mean, there's been lighting that has gone into this, mic checks, all kinds of stuff. Like we want to bring you the best that we can, that what we have to offer. Yerlin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Yeah. Before I follow up on, before I piggyback on you, on what you're saying is, before I began working with Inversant, I had experience working with families, facilitating in person. And it was an amazing experience, and be there in person, that's priceless, and then I was hired. I began working for Inversant this year in January. Then unfortunately, I did not have the chance to do the same for Inversant. but it has been an incredible change, and it has been really my experience without being in person for the families is a completely change. I'm saying that is also has been positive. We have found ways for the families to approach to us, and I believe out of, I'm gonna say a number out of, I have been in touch so far with families, about more than 300 families, and I don't know, Rochelle, if you have a different number, higher than that, but I'm just trying to be humble here. But I have been able to get in touch with families, and not families have reached out to me, not just to talk about Inversant, but also to look for resources. They see us in the community, not just as, hey, this is Inversant, we're going to learn about college savings. They have, ever since COVID happened, they have looked for us as a resource. Hey, where can I find information about this? I lost my job, and where can I find information on how to, these kind of things are happening right now. And I find it incredibly powerful for me to see that families see Inversant, see us that way. So then moving forward, so we kind of like ramp up a little bit, talking about February, and we begin with the idea of digitizing, like putting everything upside down. Instead of being in person, let's do this now digital. We are here today, and I cannot agree anymore. Like Rochelle and Bianca and I have been recording, and it has been an experience. Very challenging. We are not experts in recording or filming, but we have become, just because we want to provide families the best product ever that we ever had before. And this is something that we want to make sure that families know that we are here for them. And we are actually creating a high quality product. But beyond that, like Rochelle and Bianca mentioned, we reassure within the modules that we have been filming that we are here for them. This is something that is for their convenience. They can, and again, like Bianca, I don't want to put you on the spot again, but I find very hard these days to follow a calendar other than my work calendar. I homeschool from home, and I'm responsible for all these kind of things too. And I'm sure everybody, like all these families watching right now, and it's really hard. So what a better opportunity for families, not only to learn, but also to have the opportunity to gain incentives. Like what we have been providing, $100 free for families, those who come forward and tell us how they're doing. And then we recently launched the $2,500 scholarship. We got a lot of responses to it. So in short, I'm very proud of what I do and who I work with. Inversant has been, and I've said this before to all my Inversant family, I'm very proud of what I do, and I haven't felt so good in a while. And this is something that you'll see me for a while.
I also wanted to reiterate what Bianca and Yerlin have mentioned in terms of how we've been here for the families, in addition to the countless hours of filming and production that this entire team have put forth to create these financial aid modules that you guys are going to see. We've been in constant phone calls, communications with our families, where that is where they have let us know, how this pandemic has changed their lives, but just in general, like what are the needs that they have as of right now. So it's just, just like imagine it's filming, but it's also picking up the phone calls, calling people to ask them questions, to engage with them, and to be able to put a lot of the information that we receive and their feedback into this product that we have, because we've come a long way, like I mentioned at the beginning, in terms of those 10 years of what we've learned, the kind of language that we would like to use for our communities to help them understand the process better. And you will see with this module that it gets to kind of like the fundamentals of financial aid, and then all the way to more of like the nitty gritty detail of, in addition to what is financial aid, where does it come from, how can you how can you apply for financial aid, and even kind of like how those equations work, so that families understand, it's not just like, okay, I put all of my balls in this basket of financial aid, and I'm just waiting with bated breath to find out what that financial aid is. It's also like having action steps in between to try to, while you're waiting after you apply. So it's kind of like an entire process. And I would say too, some of the aspects that we are keeping, in addition to the phone calls and conversations that we will be able to have, you can keep calling us, we're here, we're picking up our phones. But in addition to that, we are going to hopefully implement some aspects of, like we're today, live conversations and more individual group conversations as well, where we're going to be able to have an opportunity to see the families. The families are going to be able to see us. And then there's going to be more at the end of the modules. There's also going to be opportunities for families who have particular questions with their, with financial aid in general, where they're at, to be able to, call us and ask us those particular questions as well. So it's kind of like a combination of that self-paced, but it's not like once you're done with the self-paced, that means that you're done with us. No, that's kind of like where the process continues, because we want to make sure that you are, you understood the product, and, we can weed out even more of the questions that families may have with that personal touch, individualized, like, phone calls, if they want to have access to that as well.
Yeah, and that really is the difference in what we were talking about earlier, where sure, you could go out and do that research on your own and find a million different answers to one question. Or, like Yiming said here, financial aid, it's very complicated. As we already stated, it's super overwhelming. So it's incredibly helpful when you can make it approachable, when you can make it relatable, when you can help people understand that there is a method to the madness. There is a way to navigate that. And then more than that, there are people behind the scenes in the entire programming team at Inversant that is here to cheer you on, that is here to be your support system through all of this. And that really is that partner helping you achieve your college dreams. And as I listen to all of you, I can hear the passion and the heart and soul. And that truly has been the difference as I have gone through all of this with you and just building out this massive workshop, as you've talked about, massive being how much work you've had to put into it to bring this to families in the Boston area. But to see how you've taken all of your expertise, all of your learnings at your time here at Inversant, but also your learnings within your career to truly understand what are those myths? What are those misconceptions? What are those misunderstandings? What are those hurdles? And then what are those roadblocks that people really run up against? And I love what you talked about, Bianca. I think so much of our work is democratizing higher education, making it accessible to anybody and everybody. But you've so recognized that as a team that the pandemic, as awful and horrible as it has been for the entire world, has actually been an opportunity in being able to take this program and reach even a larger group of people that might not have had access to this otherwise. And so I just want to say, just take a moment and say congratulations to all of you for all of the hard work that you've put into this, because I've been able to witness it firsthand. And I know what an enormous gift you are giving everybody that is going to be be able to come in and take advantage of these workshops that might not have been able to meet face to face because of time constraints or, whatever the case might be. So super excited to get all of this kicked off. So today, for everybody that joined us or that is joining us in the replay, what you need to know is that we're going to be kicking off enrollment next week, same time, same day. So next Tuesday, 12:30 Eastern time. We're going to be back here on Facebook. So look out for that Facebook Live link. But until then, we will drop a link to our website where you can go get a little bit more information and then also sign up for enrollment. So with that, I'm going to let all of you kind of take it away, give us some final words, and share just your last thoughts as we wrap up. Rochelle?
Sure. I just want to say that I am, it has, and we've already talked about this, that this time has been hard. And we've heard our families loud and clear, participants in general say how hard it's been to, first be at home and try to provide, a structure for all of their kids and themselves in terms of making sure that everybody was, all set with work, school, and all of that. So I think it's what I want to say when it comes to that. It has been a hard time for absolutely everybody, and we want to take a time to speak to that and to reassure everybody that we understand and we relate to that time because we've seen it, we've experienced it ourselves, and then just to like the cheerleaders that we are, just to think about, we are, sorry, that was so sorry, technical difficulties, but just to think about the fact that hopefully there is, I'm a very positive person. So I always think about the future and what to look out for. And I am very excited to witness and to be able to deploy what we have in terms of our products, in terms of being able to get to meet even more people and listen to their stories and listen to how is it that as an organization we can help them grow, but we can grow ourselves. And we're on that always continues goal post of meeting people where they're at. So I kind of want to say that we're always going to learn, we're always going to adapt, and we welcome learning more and more of what really truly it means to meet people where they're at when it comes to navigating this process. So I'm very excited to see where we go next.
Well, and you definitely have people that are just as excited as well. Crystal says, thank you, ladies, for what you do and how you do it. Your energy and hopefulness is contagious. I love that. And I would completely agree. Bianca, any last thoughts?
I'd first like to thank Crystal because I've had hour-long conversations with her. She's one of our parents from our Boys and Girls Club site. And she has given so much feedback, and like they say, feedback is a gift. I am very excited. I'm not as positive a person as Rochelle, but I am super excited about this, our programming and the direction it's taking. I am glad that we were able to get through, now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, and these last few weeks, we really cranked out some crazy, amazing things, especially considering since Yerlin and I are live in action facilitators, not people who usually film things. So I think that that's been a really, really amazing experience as well. But I cannot wait to open this up to all different kinds of people who want to get a higher education. There's so many things already that are so many challenges and barriers that we all face day to day. Being able to have this opportunity to learn, okay, let me make a plan to make sure that I don't end up $30,000 in debt. There's my positive person coming out right there. But I think that is that is a gift. Being able to leave your experience of higher education without worrying about how you're going to be able to pay for yourself to live, I think that is really important. My background being in financial coaching prior to coming to Inversant, a lot of my clients were like between 30 to 50 and had tons of student loan debt. And it was like, it was hard. It was hard to walk them through that and to talk about it. So when I was looking for a new position where I could facilitate, because I love facilitating, but also use the knowledge that I have, Inversant was perfect, because rather than figure out how to put out fires like in the moment, you'd be able to kind of prevent these fires. And I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, that's what our programming is about. That's what this learning component is about, is learning how to prevent these fires. Because these things are going to come up, these challenges, these structures, the way these systems built, they're going to be there for a while. So how do we, as people who've also had to navigate in these communities, what can we offer, or like in these situations, what can we offer you? And how can we partner together to make these things happen for you, to make your higher education dream like something that is you are going to get. And I think those are my final words.
All right, Yulin.
Sure. Thank you. Well, everyone has their words, and I agree with Rochelle and Bianca. And I think my words will be more a message to families, not to miss our modules and to carefully go over each of the modules. For families who speak Spanish, there are modules in full in Spanish. And if you get stuck, we are here for you, and we can walk you through any of the steps that are part of our module. That's what we're here for. And even if you think that your family or anyone in your family does not qualify, just look for us, leave the phone and send us an email. Just, we have, like Rochelle mentioned, we are available. And I found myself talking to families at 7:00 at night. It doesn't really bother me, but hey, I need help with this. All right, so let's put up an appointment for tomorrow and walk them through. So this is what we do for families. That's what we're here for. We support them. We have the content. The content is going to be out there. And like Rochelle and like Bianca again, put them on the spot. I'm really excited. I cannot wait to see the final product of all this hard work. And a lot of hard work, but I'm really proud of what we have been doing. And I do appreciate every single one of you through this process. And some of the things that are new to me and others are not. But mostly it's something that we're all in this together. We're learning together. We're moving forward together. And the bottom line is education is important, and without education, we're not going anywhere. And we are doing our little bit to support that, so you can have your education without having empty in your pockets. And I think those are my words.
Well, they are great words, and they're a terrific way to wrap us up. So to everybody joining us here today, thank you so much for being here live. Just so many wonderful people, so much wonderful feedback, especially for the team here and all of the hard work that they're doing to support so many families and to bring you this new online workshop. Again, we will be back here next week, same time, same day, and sharing more details as we open enrollment for that new financial aid program that we just talked so much about. If you are looking for information about Inversant between now and then, you can find us at inversant.org. And in terms of the team, if they'd like to get in contact with any of you, Rochelle, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I would say the best way to do that, you can shoot me an email at r.adanise@inversant.org. But then you can also give me a call at 617-423-0331 extension 211. Sorry.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you to all three of you for being here today, for sharing your heart and just the entire background into all of the changes that have been taking place at Inversant over this last year. So excited to see you again next week. And until then, everybody have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you then. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.